Have you ever felt like you're already behind before 8 a.m. simply because some incredibly successful person goes out on Instagram or TikTok and is telling you that they've already crushed a half a day's work by 8 a.m.? Now, what I want to do today is actually break down how incredibly toxic and absurd this kind of messaging is so that you can maybe learn when to pass on that. All right. And I want to do so today with really breaking down one particular approach that I have seen shared on pretty much every single social media platform from someone who is incredibly successful, one of the highest paid speakers in the world today. So let's dive into this toxic messaging that I'm seeing out there. And today, I really want to take a deep dive into a claim that Ed Mylett shares openly. If you are not familiar with Ed Mylett, pull up Google and search him. You will see him everywhere. And he claims that he fits 3 full days into one day. And that is a secret of his success. I'm going to tell you how he claims that he gets 3 full days into one particular day. And then I'm going to be sharing with you 3 specific reasons why this is a little toxic and a little absurd. All right. So let's start with what his core claim is. He says that he has figured out to, and I quote, manipulate time. All right, and he talks about the absurdity over why we're still using 24 hours to measure a day. Well, last time I checked, that is still how revolutions of the planets work. But he claims, again, that he is manipulating time, that he can bend time by splitting one day into 3 days, therefore giving himself 3x more levels of productivity, success, etc. But guys, a fundamental thing here, we can't manipulate time. Time is what it is. There's 24 hours in the day. The sun rises, it sets, right? What we can manipulate is our schedule and when we choose to do things. And let's not pretend that that is the same thing. Ed goes on to talk about and saying that the reason most people aren't accomplishing more is because they're treating their day as a single 24-hour block. And he divides his day into 3 separate mini days. All right. So again, this is a quote from him where he says, most people think they have one day, but I live 3. From 6 a.m. to noon, that's one day. Noon to 6, another. And from 6 to midnight, it's a third. And I reset my mindset for each one. So I'm going to break down how he is getting 3 days out of one calendar day. So his day 1, if you will, starts at 6 a.m. and he calls this kind of his early execution window. And he says that most people are kind of in warm up during this stage, but he's already in motion. So from 6 a.m. to noon, he's focused on his morning routine, his workout, priority emails, and setting up his day's strategy. And so he kind of ties his energy as like a sprint, where it's the really fast-paced, task-driven stuff, and he is focused on that from 6 to 12. And he always says, if you can, get a few wins out by noon, you will feel like you've already lived one full, completely productive day. All right, so that's his day 1. Now, his day 2, he claims, runs from noon to 6 p.m. All right. Now, before his second day, he has a mental exercise he goes to get a fresh start for some, reset and focus work. And his focuses during this block of time are things that are more strategic, meetings, creative thinking, and business deals. All right. And so he says at noon, he treats that reset before shifting into that second part of his day as like a mini new year, if you will. And he has said at noon, I treat it like a brand new day. I reassess, what did I get done? What do I need to refocus on? All right. So that's his claim for an entire second day, happens from noon to 6 p.m. Now, day 3 runs from 6 p.m. to midnight. And this is what he calls his evening day. And during this window, is when he's focused on family time, relationships, reflections, but even he admits sometimes he'll pull a little bit of a late night hustle. Now, he says that this day can be lighter or heavier depending upon his priorities, but he says, I don't just unwind at night. I make that time a purposeful block of time, so it still counts as a full day. All right, and he presents this manipulation of time, getting 3 days out of every one, as his secret to like ultra performance, and it's what separates like super high achievers from everyone else, is this treating each day as 3 days. Friends, you can call it whatever you want. You can label it whatever you want, but you can't actually create 3 days out of one. All you're doing is just labeling blocks of time differently. And at the end of the day, especially for those of you listening that know the top framework, that know how to do weekly and monthly planning the way that I teach it, right? You're probably listening to this and going, he's not actually redefining or manipulating time. He's planning. That's it. He is creating structure to his day in a way that works for him and aligning and grouping like activities to minimize waste and context switching. All right. That's really all that's happening. So let's break down kind of the three of many, but the three main fundamental problems with this approach of saying that you're actually getting 3 days out of one. It's still 24 hours. All right. Labeling parts of your day as day 1, day 2, and day 3 don't actually extend time for you. Because if that were true, then that would mean, what if I came in here and said, you know what? My day 1 is from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. My day 2 is from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. My day 3 is from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. And my day 4 is from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. And if I put fancy labels around that and I label them as day 1, 2, 3, 4, then does that mean I get to go out into the world and go, guess what? I have manipulated time. I now get 4 days into every one day, Ed, which makes me more successful and more of a high performer than you. That would be absurd, right? At what point do we stop this? Can you chunk your day into 2-hour blocks and now you can claim that you're getting 7 days out of every one day? Like, again, you can see the absurdity of how far we could take this to try and figure out exactly how many days you could get out of each one day. Now, along with this, let's look at the fact his day is going from 6 a.m. to 12 p.m., which implies you're only getting 6 hours of sleep. I know I can't be a high performer on 6 hours of sleep every single day. So subtly in that messaging is already telling you to devalue your rest, right? That's what I get out of that. I'm like, wow, to be uber successful, I can only get 6 hours of sleep. No, thank you. I'll take my 8 or more on the weekends when I can. Right? Now, so that's kind of the first fundamental problem with this, is this deciding that it's 3 6-hour chunks and then we're only sleeping for 6 hours. Like, we could have come up with any mathematical formula we wanted for that. Now, a second real fundamental problem with this, guys, is it's making this assumption that your energy is infinite. By just planning a reset every 6 hours, you can maintain the same level of efficient output all day long. Guys, it's just not true. Cognitive load, decision fatigue, natural body rhythms, ladies thinking about our hormones and our cycles, right? It is impossible to say that our energy is infinite, right? And that we can just have resets and continue to go at that same capacity all day. This is fundamentally not possible for women. And I would even hedge a bet to say, I don't think many men could maintain that same level of output for 18 straight hours because you build in some 15-minute reset. All right. Now, the third fundamental issue here, guys, you're completely ignoring the kind of elephant in the room or the context here, is that it is assuming a very highly controlled environment where he has complete control from 6 a.m. to midnight, right? Meaning nothing's going to come in and derail it. It assumes an uninterrupted high control environment. Is he getting a phone call from the school when there's an emergency? Is he getting a phone call to step in for an aging parent to go do something with, right? Probably not. And what if you are someone who truly functions as a night owl, right? I don't, but I know many people who do. So just because someone calls it 3 days does not mean that your brain needs to buy into that nonsense. Friends, your body still runs on biology, not branding. And women, especially for us, our body runs on biology, not branding. Now, while we're talking about this, I can manipulate time and create 3 days out of one, right? Another message I see out there all the time on the social media channels is the importance of, if you want to be successful or productive, here's another label, is you have to join the quote 5 a.m. club, right? Hey, if you like to get up at 5 a.m. and it works for you, you do you. But again, this can start to become incredibly toxic, because what it's saying is, if you don't get up at 5 a.m., you can't be productive, right? Now, let's talk about that for a second. Productivity is not tied to a clock. It is tied to your personal energy levels, right? I am not productive at the same times of day that my spouse is or my daughter are, right? We are all productive at different times of the day. And talking about the 5 a.m. club, waking up earlier does not automatically imply that you're going to get more done. All it's telling you is that you're starting earlier. And guess what that means? It could mean that you drain earlier. So is there any fundamental difference of working from 5 a.m. to noon versus 8 a.m. to 3? Probably not, right? Just because you started at 5 a.m. instead of 8 a.m. does not imply that you are going to get more done. And again, let's remember, not everyone thrives in the morning. And there should be zero shame in working with your body, your biology, and your natural rhythms, right? There should be zero shame in that. Now, I happen to be a morning person. An idea of a 5 a.m. club is not too, I'm kind of like, I could probably rock that. But I tell you what, my daughter sure can't. Never has, not even as a baby. That is not her body rhythm. There is nothing productive that is going to happen in her world for getting up early. And I even look at all my family members, my own parents, my sisters, my husband's family. We are all very different in that. And there should be no shame in that at all. Time, at its essence, your 24-hour day, this is not something to hack. Time is not something to hack. Time is something to honor. And we honor it by knowing how to control our calendar and plan and manage what we're doing and when we're doing it in a way that works best for us. All right. So the next time anyone tells you that they have found a way to get 3 days out of time into one, you can smile and then you can remind yourself, you don't need more days, right? All you need is the one that you've got to work for you, not against you. Now, I would love to know, what other productivity hacks have you heard or have you even tried that you realized absolutely don't work for you? So if you've got one you want to share, please come find me over on Instagram at Megan Sumrell. Shoot me a DM, shoot me a voice message, and let me know what hack you've either heard of that you thought was absurd, or even you've tried and realized, nope, not for me. And friends, science is science. A day is 24 hours. The last time I checked, that has not changed.